Okay, I apologise for the first part of this video. I, as you can see, don't have a great phone stand for filming from above, but we're going to do the best we can. So you're going to want to take your 0.5 metre cord and your 15 centimetre dowel. We're going to attach the cord to the dowel to create the loop that your wall hanging is going to hang from. So to start, you're going to tie a constrictor knot. You're going to want to take a piece that's around 15 centimetres and lay that sort of diagonally on one end of the dowel. You're then going to take that 15 centimetre end and bring it around the dowel towards the right. You're then going to bring it over the top towards the left, and then staying on the left, bring that behind the dowel and back to the front. So you should now have a cross and your shorter end should be on the left. You're now going to take the shorter end over the top of the long end, but then you're going to lift up the cross, and with this over the top of the long end, you're going to thread it underneath the cross. Still above the dowel, but under the cross. You're then going to take both ends, pull those nice and tight, and there's your first constrictor knot. Okay, so now you're going to make the loop that your wall hanging will hang from. You're going to bring this cord over to the other end of the dowel, and we're going to tie another constrictor knot at this end. So now this one that we've made the loop with, that's going to be, if you imagine that as your long end of the cord, and we've got the short end is the one with the free end. So again, you're going to cross it over slightly diagonally over the top of the dowel. Bring that end around the dowel, staying on the right. You're then going to bring it over the top of that cord towards the left, and then wrap that underneath the dowel and back around to the front, staying on the left hand side. Okay, so again, we're going to now take it over the top of the long end of the cord, and then we're going to lift up the cross, and you're going to thread that end under the middle of the cross, keeping it on top of the dowel. Pull that through, and then we're going to pull both ends nice and tight. Okay, so then you just, if you look at this from the other side where it doesn't have the crosses, you might have some big gaps here, so you're just going to push them together, make that look nice and neat. Okay, give them a tug so that they both come out at the same angle, and then we can just pull them, tighten them up again, and there you go. You've created the hanging cord for your wall hanging. Now that you've created the loop at the top of your wall hanging, you can go ahead and hang it so that we can create the rest, or if you prefer to use a little clipboard and do it on your lap, you would just clip this piece of cord under the clip. So what you're going to do next is take your 10 pieces of 1.5 metre cord. You're going to fold each one in half like this and attach it to the dowel with a lark's head knot. To attach this with a lark's head knot, you'll take the loop, stand this in front of your dowel, bring the loop behind like this, and then you'll pass the ends through the loop. And then when you pull that tight, there's your lark's head knot. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do that with all 10 of these cords. So once again, you take your loop in front, you bend the loop behind the dowel, grab those cords and pull them through. Okay, so I'll go ahead and add the remaining 8 cords now. Okay, so once you've got your 10 cards added, you're just going to go ahead and space them out nicely along the dowel. You don't want too big of a gap in between them, we just don't want them super squished up next to each other. Okay, so now that you've got all your cards hanging from your dowel, you're going to imagine that they're split into groups of 4 cards each, okay? So this would be one group. And in each of these groups of 4, you're going to tie a single square knot. So to tie your square knot, in your group of 4 cards, take the most left card and make a loop like this over the top of the 2 in the middle. Then with your right card, you're going to take that over the top of the end of the loop and then behind, bring that up behind everything, and you're going to pull the end through the loop you made back to the front. Then bring that up, tie that nice and tight at the top, and then to finish the square knot, you're going to repeat that but opposite. So you're going to make a loop with the card on the right in front of the 2 centre cards. You're going to take the card on the left, bring that in front of the end of that loop, and then up behind everything and pull it through the loop you made on the right. Pull that nice and tight. And there you have your first square knot. So now you're going to repeat that 4 more times until you've got a row of square knots going along. So I'll walk you through that again. Take your next group of 4 cards. Take the one on the left, make a loop in front of your 2 centre cards. Then take the one on the right, that's going to go in front of the end and then up behind everything and come through that loop to the front. Pull that nice and tight and bring it up to the top. And if you find that everything's getting a little bit crumpled at the top, just hold the knot and pull your centre cards and that'll bring it nice and tight. Then repeat that again on the other side, so you make your loop with the right hand card. Then take your left card over the front of the end and then up behind everything and through the loop. Pull it nice and tight. There's your second square knot. Okay, so now you have your first row of square knots. Now because this design is going to be a triangle, we're going to continue doing rows of square knots, but each time there's going to be 1 square knot less in the row. So to do that, you're going to ignore your first 2 cards, and then you're going to find the next 4 cards. So that'll be these. And these are the ones that you're going to tie your next square knot with. So make sure that you've got no overlaps. We want them to be laid flat. So you should have half your cards coming from one square knot, half of them coming from the next one. And you're just going to tie another square knot using these cards. Okay, so now you can see that that's sort of the next row but alternating. So it's not directly below either of those, it's in the middle but below. Okay, so we're going to tie 3 more on this row. So again, we're just going to go for the next 4 cards along. Make sure that you've got nothing overlapping, we want them to be staying nice and straight. And tie your square knot. Okay, so I'm just going to do 2 more on this row. Okay, So now you should be able to see that you've got your first two cards on this end that we ignored, and you should have two cards left on the other end. So for the next row, we only want to do 3 square knots. So this time, you're going to ignore the first 4 cards, and then you're going to find the next 4 and tie your square knot with them. Again, this should be 2 coming from each of these square knots. So you'll tie your square knot with them. There we go. So again, you can see this is not directly below either of the ones above. It's in the middle, but it will line up with the 1-2 rows above. So we're going for sort of a brickwork pattern with these. So we're going to do 2 more square knots on this row. Okay, so now on this row, you should notice you've got your 4 cards on this end that we ignored, and then 4 cards that were unused on this end. So for the next row, we only want 2 square knots. So you're going to ignore the first 6 cards on the left. And then with the next 4 along, we're going to tie a square knot. Okay, so for this row, you'll notice you've got your 6 on this side that you ignored, and you should have 6 cards left on this side. So for the final row of square knots, we're just going to do 1 square knot right in the centre. So you'll ignore the first 8 cards on the left. And then you'll find the next 4 along. And this is where we're going to tie our square knot. So now that you've created your triangle, we want to finish this off with some clean lines down each side. To do this, we're going to tie double half hitch knots. So you're going to take your first card on the left. This is going to be your centre card. So this is going to go down like this. And with each of these cards down the left, you're going to tie a double half hitch knot. So to do that, we'll start with the first one along. You want to bring that from behind this card over the top of it, and then bring the end through that loop you've just created. And then we'll pull that tight, keeping your centre card going in the direction we want it to go. Then we're just going to repeat that. So bring the end over the top and then pull it from behind through the loop. Pull that nice and tight. Okay, and then you're going to work on to the next card down. We're just going to do that again. So bring it over the front, pull it through the loop you've created, and pull that nice and tight. Repeat that. And there you go. And you want to make sure that you are pulling these nice and tight so that they butt up against the edges of your square knots. Okay, after your first couple, if you just want to manipulate them a little bit to make sure we're going in the right direction, and then move on to your next card down, doing the same thing. And then the next card. We're just going to repeat this until we get down to the bottom. Okay, and when you get to the bottom, your final square knot that you did, you've got 2 centre cords that come straight out the bottom of that. So you're going to tie your last double half hitch knot with the left one of those centre cords. Okay, so now you've created your row of double half hitch knots down the left hand side of your wall hanging. So what we're going to do next is tie another row of double half hitch knots going down the right hand side. So for this, you're going to take the first cord on the right, going down this side, that's going to be your centre cord. So as we did before, take the next cord along, and from behind, you're going to bring this over in front, and then behind, and pull that through the loop. Okay, so you'll notice that we're going in a different direction to the way we went going down this side, but you always bring the cord forward to make the loop in the direction that you're going. Okay, so there's our first double half hitch knot, and again we're just going to work our way down this side. So bring it forward across the top, behind and through the loop. And again, in front, behind and through the loop. Okay, so we're just going to repeat that again until we get down to the bottom of the wall hanging. Okay, and when you get down to the bottom, again you're going to tie your last one with the cord that's coming out the centre of your bottom square knot. Okay, so now you've reached the bottom, you'll notice that you've got a little bit of a gap here where your 2 rows of double half hitch knots are coming down. So to join that gap, you're going to take the right hand centre cord, and this is going to continue being the centre cord, and you're going to tie a final double half hitch knot with the centre cord from the left. Okay, so bring the right hand centre cord over the top, and then tie a double half hitch knot using the left centre cord. If you pull that nice and tight, we want them to join together. There you go. So now what we want to do is tidy up these little ends that we have coming out of our constrictor knots. So if you turn your wall hanging backwards, now if you want to use fabric glue, all you'll need to do is just glue these short ends across the back here. I prefer to do it with a needle and tuck them under the rest of the cords. So what you're going to do is just unravel this little end of cord. That should unravel into 3 smaller pieces. And you're going to thread one of these into your needle. Okay, once you have that end through your needle, you're going to ignore the constrictor knot, and we're just going to go for the next loop along. You want to go under that cord, but on this side of the dowel. We'll pull that through. You can pull that nice and tight, and then we're going to do the same with the next 2 little pieces. Okay, so you've threaded your second piece onto the needle. You're just going to follow the first end under, I like to do about 3 loops. Pull that through and make sure it's nice and tight. And we'll do that again with the final one on this side. Okay, so for your third piece, again, just follow the other two cords under them 3 loops, pull that through and make sure it's nice and tight. Once you've pulled those 3 through, you can just take a pair of scissors and trim them as close to the loops as you can get. Make sure you don't cut your loops or your cords will fall off. Okay, so now we're just going to repeat that this side. We're going to unravel, so we have 3 separate pieces. And we're going to thread those onto the needle. So you've threaded your needle, and then we're just going to go for 3. Now if you find that, like me, your pieces are not long enough and you can't reach because you've run out of cord on the loop, what you can do is just keep hold of this, loosen up this constrictor knot, you can just let in a little bit more cord. Okay, so once you've tidied up those short ends, we're going to work on the lengths of cord. So before we do that, you're going to take your wall hanging down and we're going to go lay it on a flat surface. So I apologise, we're going back to my terrible camera angle on the floor. Okay, so I have to apologise, I have already cut the ends off of my wall hanging. I forgot to press record. So pretend that I still have the long lengths as you do at the moment. So what you're going to do is lay your wall hanging on a flat surface. You want to take all of your long ends and then flip them over the top of the wall hanging. You're then going to line up these ends so that each one comes straight down, and we don't want any of them to be overlapping. Okay, so you should have all of your ends now laying nice and flat over the top of the design. You want to make sure that at the edge here, they are pulled quite tight. We don't want them all loose or this is not going to work. So you're then going to choose where you want to cut, and this will determine how long these lengths end up. So you can go as long or as short as you want. All you're going to do is pick a point to cut and make sure that you cut a straight line parallel with your dowel. Okay, so you'll follow the line of your dowel going in the exact same angle. You're just going to cut in a straight line across all these ends. Okay, so now that you've cut that straight line, you can go ahead and flip those ends back into the right direction. But you should now see that the ends of your wall hanging followed the shape of the design itself. So your cords that you have in the centre are longer and they follow that nice curve, getting shorter as they go up. And there you go, you've finished your macrame wall hanging.